Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Mugdha Lele, and on behalf of the TechX team at Venture Center, I'm happy to host the third wave of our Only One Theme Awareness Talk series on innovation management. As the organizer for this series, let me briefly first introduce Venture Center and the TechX.in vertical. Venture Center Pune is India's award-winning leading technology business incubator for science and technology startups. We specialize in supporting deep tech innovations by helping innovators and startups to commercialize their ideas. IP, technology transfer, and broadly technology management are very important for any deep tech innovation. Venture Center is a dedicated TechX.in team which supports innovators and startups via various initiatives in the technology management domain. TechX.in is a technology transfer office supported by the Department of Biotechnologies BIRAC via their National Biopharma Mission initiative. Our team offers services and initiatives focused around technology commercialization, which includes tech marketing, tech transfer, deal structuring, valuations, and agreements, spin-off creation, or new venture creations. Our team also offers support in terms of IP protection, search and analytics, and policies, and support for institutions in innovation management. We are also actively involved in industry academia partnerships and contract managements. Please reach out to our team members for getting details about any of these service offerings. As part of our initiatives, we also host several awareness workshops and training sessions, and our Only One Theme talk series, which is the second of its wave, is which is the third of this wave, is starting today. So we are starting the third wave from today, and this is the first talk in this wave. Today's topic is on improving your NIRF rankings. And our speaker for today is Dr. Premnath V. Let me briefly introduce Dr. Premnath before we begin our talk. Dr. Premnath is a scientist at the Polymer Science and Engineering Division at NCL and Founder Director of Venture Center. He is a technology developer, innovation and incubation manager, startup mentor, and a co-founder of 2 medtech startups. For the last 17 plus years at Venture Center, Dr. Premnath has provided leadership for teams that have won national awards for technology development, intellectual property management, and business incubation. He is a chemical engineer by training and alumnus of MIT in the US. He also has received the IIT-Bombay Distinguished Alumnus Award in 2022. He has also been a Chevening Technology Enterprise Scholar in Cambridge, UK. With this brief introduction, welcome Dr. Premnath to the session and handing over the session to you.
Yep, sorry, I was unable to unmute for a moment. Can you also start my video, please? Is the passcode for the link applicable or not?
Is anyone asking you?
Yeah, so just wondering if
we'll
people are not able to log in the Zoom. Just check that, please. Okay.
Yeah, we will check that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me get started. Can you see my slides? Mugdha, yes, can you see my slides? Can you hear clearly?
Yeah, okay. We can hear clearly.
Okay, let's start. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today's session is on NIRF innovation rankings, and I thought I'll share some learnings and some observations today about the NIRF innovation rankings. Many all the Indian academic institutions are right now quite keen to see their NIRF rankings, and one category under that is innovation, which we thought sort of aligns with the kind of stuff which we do, and we thought we will also share some insights with the academic and research institutions on what it is, what are the kind of parameters, and what you could do possibly to improve it. So my focus today is on improving NIRF innovation rankings, and that is what I'll be speaking about. Um, as Mugdha mentioned, the Venture Center's TechX team is a part of this of the Venture Center, which is responsible for building win-win partnerships between industry and academia. And they are the ones who are looking at partnering various different academic organizations as well. So please do reach out to them if you think that they can be of help to you as well. Okay, in today's talk, what I'm going to do is, first of all, just talk a little bit about the NIRF innovation parameters as I understand it, to the extent that information is available, and also talk a little bit about what you could do possibly to improve on some of the NIRF innovation parameters. As an organization, what you could do better, what you could improve within your organizations to do better the next year when you're applying for your NIRF rankings once again. So let me first just give you a couple of disclaimers. First of all, this talk aims to understand the ranking system and suggest how to improve the score in the current system. I'm not trying to make any comment on its desirability or appropriateness of the system. All ranking systems come with some opportunities and some shortcomings. It's important to use good judgment on how to use it. Some of you might have heard both these quotes which are listed below. One which talks about the merits of measuring things and using that to improve any given system. Lord Kelvin famously said, in short, that where you can improve what you can measure. Whereas on the other side, on the right-hand side, there's another quote by Ridgway, which talks about what gets measured gets managed, even when it's pointless to measure and manage it, even if it harms the purpose of the organization to do so. So, of course, people can have different views on the topic. My goal is not to comment on that, but to try and see what is in progress right now, what's happening, and how you could do better in the current system. Okay, so just a little bit of background. Till 2022, there was something called the Atal Ranking of Innovations on Innovation Achievements, ARIIA. And that was something which was integrated into the NIRF innovation rankings in 2023. And 2024 saw a few more changes in that system. So currently, if you go to the website of the NIRF rankings, you will find that this website has these rankings, and you can browse through it. There are some overall rankings for different categories, also by different fields, pharmacy, medical, so on. There's a separate category here, which you will see, which is called innovation, right? But the overall rankings, primarily the parameters that are used fall in the following categories. One is about teaching, learning resources, research and professional practice. There is also the outcomes, graduation outcomes, something on outreach and inclusivity, and peer perception. And then there are sub-parameters under each of these categories. On the face of it, you only see this particular one on IPR and patents as one being relevant to a lot of the innovation activities, but that's actually, there's more to it, but I just thought I'd point you to it, but this is only for the overall rankings. As it says below, parameters are not for the specific disciplines, okay? Okay. There is, as I told you, a specific category for innovation. So I'm going to focus on that particular category today and try to describe to you what I understand of the system so far, right? So if you click on it, you will see, in the report, you will see this as the current ranking. So India rankings for 2024, the top 10 innovation institutions. You'll see all of these, a lot of the IITs and Indian Institute of Science and Anna University listed there. IIT-Bombay topping the list at #1. And its submissions and the data submitted are also available on that website. So one can go and have a look at this. There's also a list of organizations in the rank 11 to 50, and you can see those as well. You can also see some, I've just put a link of one institution, for example, which falls in the 51 to 100 band. So you can see how they compare in those parameters as well in terms of data that they have. This particular slide deck will be available to all our academic partners, and you can write to Mukta. She'll be able to send it to you at the end of it. You can use those links as well. Okay. So in the India rankings for innovation, if you look at the data that is listed in the report, you will find the following data which is listed there. There's data about what is the sanction intake of students, what the actual student strengths, the programs offered by institution. I've just taken just the headline categories in which the data is provided. You'll see these set of 5 which are blue in color here, which focus a lot on entrepreneurship and startups. So startups recognized by DPIIT, startups which have got venture capital investment in the previous 3 years, foreign direct investment in previous 3 years, ventures of startups grown to turnover of 50 lakhs, alumni that are founders of Forbes Fortune 500 companies. Of course, this last one being the most trickiest because that is clearly something which only the older institutions will be able to showcase probably in the list. The green one, which you see there, the innovation grant received, patents published, granted, commercialized, and innovations at various stages of technology readiness is the next set of parameters. These have all got to do with technology development, protection with intellectual property rights, and also commercialization of technology. So the innovation process. First one was the blue ones were the entrepreneurship and startup related metrics. The green ones are more technology and innovation related metrics. And then the violet ones at the bottom are those which are more related to the capabilities in the organization, the kind of if the organization has a pre-incubation activity or an incubation activity, do they have training courses, academic courses on some of these topics, and do they have faculty who can handle it? So it's more about capacity and capabilities. And the first 2 categories, the blue and the green, are more about outcomes. Okay, so this is broadly the set of categories, the data that is listed in the report for each of these organizations as well. By the way, I'll try and take up questions over time, so feel free to type them in the chat box and I'll try to come back to it at a suitable point. So these are the categories of the data that is presented in those reports. There could have been more data which was collected, but that's not been shown, so I'm not able to comment on that as well. Just little taking one step back, in 2023, the NIRF had put out separate NIRF innovation parameters, and that had followed the pattern which was developed by ARIIA, right, which was done by a different entity, the innovation cell in the Ministry of Education. And that I couldn't hold of that site again recently, but this was the link where it was available, and I'm using that to also just go back and see how they were looking at innovation parameters. So the NIRF innovation ranking framework at that time, which is 2023, by the way, this has been changed, of course, but broadly it gives you a sense of what might have been prioritized. So the NIRF innovation ranking framework had 7 parameters and 22 key indicators. And I've just put them down here for your reference. You will find that the first parameter was relating to policy and institutionalization of innovation and entrepreneurship activities, had to do with whether policies were in place, whether the innovation councils were in place, whether trained ambassadors were there, trained who were driving this activity, or leadership to drive some of these innovation activities and participation in some of their programs. The second parameter had to do with teaching and learning courses on innovation and entrepreneurship. There were parameters such as having credit courses in innovation and entrepreneurship and intellectual property, and also certificate programs, also with the intention of probably doing capacity building for the faculty as well, because that is some faculty is a great resource for this activity, which they need to also equip and inform and inspire to carry out some of these activities as well. The third parameter was relating to pre-incubation, incubation infrastructure facilities. So there was one which related to the pre-incubation facility. In this, they had included tinkering lab, maker spaces, design centers, IEDC programs, entrepreneurship development cells, e-cells, and so on and so forth, and incubation facility, and an IPR cell or a patent facilitation unit or a TTO, tech transfer office in that organization as well. So these are some of the parameters which were included for some of the infra and facilities. Then there were other parameters, like parameter 4 had to do with the number of prototypes, technology development in action, basically. Then some indicators of activity, some indicators of awards won from reputed organizations, and so on and so forth. Parameter 5 had to do with startups and ventures. And there was a number which was sought for, say, for example, the number of startups, which were registered, the number of cases where the faculty were involved deeply in those startups, angel or VC investments, startup or SME ventures, which reached an annual turnover of a certain size, or awards won by these startups. So basically, the level of activity and some metric of success of these startups, or at least ability to raise money and be active or be recognized, and so on and so forth. Okay. Parameter 6, who had to do with collaboration with other incubation units, probably realizing that everything cannot be in-house. Also, you need to have a lot of different collaborators of different types. These are not only higher education institutes who bring in other capabilities, technical skills, and so on, which I think is a good idea. Also industry associations, and also incubation, different kinds of incubation units. So one parameter here was to see if organizations were collaborating to build some of these technologies or to translate them and take them out. As I will also mention later, you will also, the innovation ecosystem needs other players, and you need to find ways to collaborate with them. So I also think that this is a fairly good metric to at least build out some of those collaborations, as long as one looking for useful collaborations for the innovation ecosystem itself. And then finally, parameter 7. Parameter 7 had to do with intellectual property generation and commercialization. And there we had patent-related metrics and metrics related to other IPR besides patents, like copyrights, designs, and so on, and number of technologies commercialized and transferred, or patents commercialized, transferred, and so on. So these were the parameters which were listed. So as I told you, this was 2023, the parameters which were used. Some modifications were definitely done to this, is mentioned in the text. This is in the document report of NIRF 2024. You will see that it does mention that major changes introduced in India ranking 2024. Innovation ranking of 2023 was conducted using a methodology developed by Atal Ranking of Innovations Institutions on Innovation Achievements, the innovation cell of MOE. However, ranking methodology for innovation institutions has been redefined to align with the national institutional ranking framework. And I couldn't find all the details, but broadly speaking, I think they're still fairly aligned based on the data that has been collected, with some small changes which probably were based on what data was available, what could be collected, and what one could make out of it as well. So broadly speaking, these are the main things that they are looking for. One, entrepreneurship of startup related activities and results. Second, innovation related activities and results. Okay. And the third are the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem and capabilities to basically promote that, right? So that's what is the goal. And I'll sort of little bit go into a little bit deeper, but I think we can now start looking at what could be the kind of things you could do in your organization to improve your innovation rankings based on some of the metrics that I have put down in the previous section. By the way, feel free to ask questions. I will come back to those. Please type them in the chat box and be able to take them. Or we will also try to open the floor to questions at the end, if time permits, right? So I'm hoping to close in another 10-15 minutes. So we should have some questions, time for questions. Okay, so now taking all of this information, I put together a combined list of areas to address. The ones in black are the kind of things, which come out of the 2023 list. Okay. And the ones in violet, green, and blue are the ones which are pulled out based on the data that has been collected, by the NIRF 2024 kind of 2024 rankings, right? So you can see that there's a fairly similar kind of coverage. A lot of those do match up, a little change in languages, little change in definition of metrics. But all said and done, these are again the three main areas coming down from policies, institutional processes to the faculty strength, to academic credit courses, to programs which are faculty development programs and certificate programs, to pre-incubation, to incubation, to being able to translate innovation to different technology readiness levels, to innovation grants received from well-known government organizations, to startup recognized by DPIT or alumni or founders of major companies, startups which have got VC investments in previous 3 years, and turnover of startups, venture startups to which over 50 lakhs, patents and technologies commercialized and patents commercialized, right? So broadly the same set of categories. So I think it's fair to say that these are the things we should focus on. I further have distilled it down for you to a few parameters and few boxes that we can start now building upon in our organizations and trying to see how we can take it ahead. Below, in the gray boxes, are enablers, right? And these, I think you will anyway need to have. Our general observation is that if you don't have those, it is very difficult to drive the innovation and entrepreneurship process. Also, without clear policies, there's a lot of confusion around in organizations. You end up seeing a lot of disputes, a lot of disagreements on ownership issues, and so on and so forth, right? And this is something which you need to do as a bottom line. So the enabler one has to do with policies, councils, the leadership teams, the lead innovation managers, and so on. By the way, this just to address a quick question which has come, which is that these will be shared. The slides will be available to those who have registered. I will request our team to share it. But this video will also be available online. So you will be able to see it on the YouTube site of techx.in. So you can refer to it as and when you need. So enabler one was policies, councils, leadership team. Enabler two is your faculty strength, your student strength, your collaborators that you have available to you to build that out. And that, of course, is quite critical because, after all, the innovation projects have to be initiated by somebody, and it's going to be the faculty typically or the students initiating it. Enabler three are the academic courses, the certificate programs, essentially familiarizing people, inspiring them, enabling them to take up some of these activities as well. Okay. And finally, enabler four, which has got to do with organizational structure, the institutional processes of either IP cells or tech transfer offices, or a pre-incubator or an e-cell, or incubator, the availability of incubator or units, and so on and so forth. Now, given these four enabling pillars, right? One needs to basically perform in terms of results, which you can see over there in the top in the two green boxes. The first box on the left is about results relating to innovation, and the key parameters which we saw again, and just summarizing it here, is number of patents and other IP, number of technology and prototypes developed, the technologies commercialized, and the innovation grants won and awards. We'll try and see what is within reach, what can be done immediately. The results too on the other side have to do with startups created, supported, investments raised, prominent alumni, entrepreneurs, incubators, financial inflows as an indication of whether the incubator is active or not, pre-incubations, financial inflows. For example, if it's an e-cell and you're raising money as a student cell for a lot of events, that would be showing up as inflows and awards, right? Now, these two boxes on the top is what one needs to eventually demonstrate. And this shows up prominently in the reports, which you'll see for all those organizations which are listed in the ranking system as well. And their data is available online. So this is what one needs to work on, and two main sets of boxes, right? Now, let me just try to do a little simplification here for you. Again, a slightly different look at it. If you were to do a short list, this is what I would list. There have to be faculty and students to initiate or champion the innovation projects. And this means willingness and ability. And primarily that will have to be done through training, inspiration, awareness. Sometimes faculty need to know that there are these funding schemes available, or students need to know that there are these funding schemes available where they can get started, or students need to know that there are mentors available in the ecosystem. There are many entrepreneur networks available in various cities who do mentor student entrepreneurs as well. And this is something which you just need to tap, but you need to be aware of it. You also need to have a little bit of confidence, because generally the feeling is that, oh, maybe they can do it, I may not be able to do it. But that confidence comes gradually, or by looking at other people who are similar to you who have done it. And that's also a good learning experience to interact with other entrepreneurs and opportunities to interact with them. Besides that, of course, some time and early resources to get started. So some tech development innovation projects, usually which have given some initial catalytic funding, always helps to get it going. So the first tech development innovation projects, well conceived, well thought out, because we often find that many projects don't end up raising money beyond a certain point because the problem definition has not been done well. So one of the things which Venture Center has been focusing on is teaching how you could do a good problem definition. If some of you are interested, there are methodologies like the Stanford Biodesign program, which talks about, and resources are available freely online, which is about need identification. How do you identify needs? How do you define problems before you get started? If that's done, very often you can, convince other people that this is an important problem, well defined. There's a real need to solve, and we have a good solution. And this requires a little bit of deeper thinking than just superficially stating it. Beyond that, it's about getting money to advance the innovation. And there are several programs. We have done a separate talk on funding opportunities available for innovators in India. There is a map that Venture Center has developed. There's a free database available online on funding.venturecenter.co.in for anybody who is interested to search, is welcome to search that. There are many innovation funding options available. And from time to time, we put out calls as well. So these are all that can be tapped in different ways. Some of them have their own timelines. It can take some time to get there. But that said, it is available. And if you are carrying out innovation activities and these are novel, chances are that there will be opportunities for patenting and creating other IP as well. Now, when that comes up, you need to know, basically the policies have to be in place to understand who owns it, who will file it, who will pay for it, all of those kind of things. The organization have to have support mechanisms available or facilitation mechanisms available to facilitate the patenting process for these organizations, for these inventors and innovators. And that is something which many organizations are putting in place now, academic organizations. And if you don't have, there are, of course, facilitating organizations like us, like TechX.in, or there are there are about 7 other RTTOs in India today, supported by BIRAC, which is available for to access in your own neighborhood. And beyond that, there are, of course, service providers as well who can help you out with their filings and so on. The next step after that comes the process of taking it to market. And that requires very often somebody who buys into the business opportunity. It could be an entrepreneur who is driving a new business, or it could be a existing business which is, say, keen on taking it up as a license and advancing it further. So that process requires a little bit of matchmaking first, finding the right industry partners or entrepreneurial partners for your technology. And that cannot be done sitting in your office. It has to be something where one has to talk to many people, understand what and explain the value proposition of what you have done, and identify potential partners and convince them that this is worth taking compared to any other alternatives that they might be looking at. And beyond that, facilitation of the agreements that go along with that licensing process as well. If there are startup founders, I mean, in most cases, when any startup is created, there is at least one person over there who is a champion of that whole business idea and taking it to the market, taking it all the way to the market to a definite conclusion in the form of a product or a service in the market. That champion is the entrepreneur, right? And that entrepreneur, identifying it and nurturing it is one of the tasks which, of course, all of us want to do, including academic institutions. They may be among our students or amongst our faculty, but they may also be from outside. The question is, how do we bring them to the table or to the discussion? And that sometimes happens through incubators or through forums like e-cells run by students, or mechanisms by which you can showcase some of these technologies and bring partners to the place as well. Okay, so that entrepreneur pool is quite important. And then finally, a startup gets created and attracts investment. That's all about putting a good business case together, having the right people telling the right story for the business, backing it up, validating your claims, and convincing people that it's worth investing in and taking it ahead. So all this sequence, you'll find that the red ones are people related, and it's about capacity development, it is about awareness, it's about inspiration, it is about motivating people to get going and so on and so forth, and also equipping them with the right knowledge, training programs, and so on and so forth. So that part, I think, is the first thing one can address. It's also a foundational thing which is important. Following that, some of the innovation projects and so on and so forth, it is, if one defines a good project, good idea by some of the faculty, students, or entrepreneurs, finding takers would be actually, or funders, is not, in our opinion, that difficult. It is a matter, it's competitive. For example, BIRAC BIG right now, the odds of success are only about 8% or so, which is, of course, difficult. But there are other smaller pockets of funds which will be available. BIRAC BIG is for 50 lakhs. Nidhi Prayas is for, say, 10 lakhs. There's some CSR funds which might be going right from 5 to 30 lakhs and so on and so forth. So you can actually tap them, and you don't need to limit yourself to only your institution. You can look at various players in the ecosystem who are offering funds, and they put out calls from time to time. Their facilitators are different kinds. There are competitions running. So students need to be encouraged to participate in competitions which give prize money to advance some of these ideas ahead and so on, right? Like recently concluded the NBEC, which is the National Biotech Entrepreneurship Competition, which also had many awardees, including student awardees, by the way, right? So that the green part, I think, is something which will follow. The challenging and the first part very often in practice is to get the red ones going, and that is something which is important. And in green ones, you can always tap other innovation ecosystem partners, and that's where your partnerships, your networks, all of those will come into play as well. And these green ones, I think, uh, are doable once the initial projects are created, some initial work is done, and the story is built and advances further into all of these rest of these activities over there as well. In the boxes below, there are three boxes over there. One is about awareness, information, inspiration, training. This is something which academic organizations are very good at, because that's what teaching is about, that's what mentoring is about. So it is possible to do that. They can draw upon other entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. For example, the Indus Entrepreneurs is a network of entrepreneurs. Venture Center also runs events where we give opportunities for people to interact with our startup founders. And there are several such events that we run from time to time. One of them, which was being announced in the beginning of this talk, was how to do a startup, where we bring in about 3 startups to engage with the participants and to tell their story, and so that there's some relatability to it. The second box is about policies, offices, and partners and collaborators. And the final one, which I think you can build through external networks, as support services. It's got to do with IP, patent filings, agreement drafting, tech marketing, deal making, closure. All of these things are possible, and there are different partners available depending upon your priorities and your the kind of arrangement you wish to have, who may be able to work with you on this as well. Okay, so I have told, I think with that, I'm done with this session after about 40 minutes, so it's okay. Venture Center's TechX team does run these activities, and you're welcome to please connect with Dr. Kavita Parekh. I've requested Mugdha to send these slides out to you so that you can. So I'm done with that. I'll just take a few questions right now, and then we can open the floor to any more questions as well as it comes along. So there was a question about, is there any benchmark to each of the sub-metrics of NIRF innovation like NAC? Basically, what I did was I just went and looked at the online, just give me a minute. I looked at the rankings and the numbers available. So if you look at this page out here, which is linked here, you can see the reports just as an indicator and as an exercise, which might help you as well. All I did was I looked at the top 10, a few of them. I looked at the next 50, and a few are available online of the next band, 51 to 100. People have put it out on their own. You can look them up and you get a sense immediately of what might be getting valued. Okay. That is the only thing that I could do. I didn't find any separate independent benchmarks. The section in the report for the innovation rankings is a little weak. It's small. It's very small, short, so we couldn't get too much details out. But this is a good way, I think. And the metrics which I have listed out here, I can tell you that some of these are aligned with, for example, this alumni thing is clearly related to reputation, right? And recognition by others. You'll recall that the overall rankings had this 4 and 5 categories, right? TLR, RP, GO, OI, and peer perception. So some of these do correlate with those as well. So I think that is what is something which you can clearly see happening. That's why this has been introduced probably. But there are some others which have to do with the quality of the innovations and so on. Some of these are difficult to build in a very short period of time. So clearly older institutions will have an advantage there. But that said, there are some which can be built fast. Like, for example, startups recognized by DPIIT, right? You could also have companies, especially if you have services companies, which are very common by the way in engineering kind of organizations, engineering institutes. You can actually hit turnover of 50 lakhs quite reasonably fast. You can have quite a few patents published. You could have a pipeline of technology at different readiness levels, and it is possible to also win some grants for different kind of innovation projects. And of course, the ones in Violet are easier to do as well. So I don't have exact benchmark numbers, but that's how I have used it to benchmark it. So that was Professor Sagar Dalikar. Dr. Neeta Joshi, has asked for the PPT, which I told you would be available. Ravindra Wavle has asked NIRF innovation ranking data mainly asks for IE outcome-based data, patent commercialization, and so on. Kindly guide how in academic institutes, how do we match up with this? Well, I told you how I compared the data. Basically, all the reports are available online. You can see the kind of numbers that say the IITs of IIT-Bombay, Chevening, and all of them, the next 50 as well, which are done, and some of them which are comparable, say, to your organization, you can look up. I think primarily some of you might, as I told you, may not be able to build some of these parameters, which will take years to build. For example, getting a startup to a VC investment stage, unless it is in computer science or IT, will take quite some time. And the odds of VC investments are fairly low compared to the number of startups which are there. So of all the startups, maybe 5% would get there. So these are the difficult parameters, but some of these you can definitely target, including building up your faculty strength, student strength, startup recognized, looking at those which reach 50 lakhs turnover, patents, projects, technology readiness level, moving it up. All that is doable. So I think that is something which you can look at and aim to do, right? There's also, I think, Dr. Neeru Malik, I've told you that you can also get the slides. Other than this, I think there's one more question from Naresh Paneerselvam.
Before you take the next question, let me please announce the feedback link is there in the chat box. Please do give your feedback before you leave the session. Yeah, you can proceed.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to ask a question, you can also raise your hand. We'll be able to take a few. So there's a button under reactions. There should be a raise hand button, right? Under.
Yeah, you can raise your hand or type your questions in the chat box also.
Yeah. We need to tell where the raise hand button is. Okay. They change the location, I suppose. Okay. Anyway, the next question is about, are these rankings assigned based on only on higher education institutions and incubation centers, or just innovations basis only? So the data that's been collected, the availability of incubation centers is only one parameter. So clearly these are for higher education institutions, whether they have incubation centers or not. And also I noticed that all the startups listed are not necessarily located in, are not all, only sort of from that academic institutions. Basically, they do have an incubation agreement with that institution, and they would be taking help of a certain kind. It could be mentoring, it could be funding, it could be whatever. But that said, not all are necessarily located 100% in campus. So don't confuse that as well. You can list startups who your alumni have built, your current students have built, right? They may or may not necessarily be 100% located in that incubator. So that's one set. The other thing I told you, the incubation center, the parameters relating to innovation are actually quite independent of the green ones, which we see in front of you, are quite independent of your incubation center, right? This could be even in innovation that's from a project which your faculty have conducted, research which has happened in your institution, and so on. So all of that is fine. That's perfectly fine. So again, to just repeat, there were a set of blue parameters which were relating to startups and entrepreneurship, green parameters which are related to innovation and technology development. And this is not necessarily related to, there'll be overlap. Some innovations will go down the incubation route, but it is not entirely from the incubator. And then there are capabilities and facilities, and that as a last category, right? There's another question which is by Kishore Harale. Is Innovation Center arrange any interaction events with existing startups there? Yeah. So I suppose the question is about, for Venture Center. Yeah, we do this regularly. There are also our team arranges this event called How to Do a Startup, and this we do also with specific research organizations. There are times when academic institutions can bring their students or faculty and interact with, and there's a structured program. We're not able to do it continuously because of constraints, but we do schedule those, and that's what our colleagues plan from time to time as well. So that's something which we do from time to time. So you're welcome to do that. Other incubators also, I think, will have such events. You should tap the ones near you as well. But Venture Center does do that. Please feel free to reach out to Dr. Kavita Parekh, who had put down their email in the end, right? I think that's a message from our team. What's the data capturing mechanism for research articles, innovation, and startups, institutes, patents, etc., adopted in the NIRF ranking framework? So, if you look at the report, it explains. There is a report which is there on the website right now for 2024 ranking. I briefly showed you the cover of it, I think. This one, right? This does have some description of how they verify the data. I think they take data from people. They also ask that, it should be based on, these kind of databases, or should be qualified in a certain way, and so on and so forth. That's how they are doing it, but it is self-reported by all these organizations that is being then, checked by to some degree. Okay, so I think, am I done with all the questions, Mugdha, or any consideration for tier 3 places?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, they have not done any such classification in the innovation rankings. I didn't find any classification of that kind. Hopefully, if many of you are applying under the innovation category also, they will eventually have subcategories. But as I told you, younger institutions and smaller institutions will not have the kind of numbers to show. But that's okay. I mean, the way I look at it, it's not about just absolute rankings. It's also about positioning and growing over a period of time. There can be specialist institutions which do extremely well in one parameter, but they may not show up in this ranking just because they're not large enough compared to, say, IIT-Bombay. So, for example, I would have thought IIT-Bombay would figure in the top 10 because they're a specialist organization, but perhaps they're not large enough compared to an IIT-Bombay to figure in the top 10. So those trade-offs are there, but every ranking system will have those trade-offs. One cannot do much about those, unfortunately, right? So that's about it. I think I've answered all the questions.
I have unmuted you.
Please. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello. Hi, please go ahead.
I am Professor Sagar Delekar, working as Director for Innovation Incubation Linkages at Shivaji University, Kolhapur. So it is actually public state university. Especially regarding already I asked one question: what is the capturing mechanism, especially for the startup and patent databases and articles as well, especially in NIRF innovation or NIRF the overall ranking framework, especially in case of patent the databases. especially they have mentioned regarding Derwent,
Derwent.
yeah,
Yeah.
innovation, okay, capturing system. So
Yeah.
especially, okay, in public state
I
university,
would
it will,
assume, no, I would assume, my suggestion to you would be this, okay?
ah,
That, see, they would use that for checking,
ah,
okay? But
ah,
I think in practice, we have seen that you can do a very good job of creating a database of your patents, okay, with just publicly available databases.
public level, okay.
Yeah. So, for example, as a rule, I suppose you know that all patent offices disclose, they all have public databases,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So
Yes.
you can, and you will definitely be filing in India, right? Or, if you go, you can look up the WIPO database or the
Hmm.
eSpace database, right? So
Yeah.
one simple exercise you can do, and I can request some of our colleagues to run a session for you on that if required, which is that how do you compile that sort of dashboard or the data and just keep it up to date?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's not very difficult at all. Okay.
Hmm.
It's actually just a matter of systematically tracking it, and this is something which many universities in India need to do regularly, because we are also seeing that there are many universities who are filing patents but not um, pursuing it to approval. Okay.
Oh. Hmm.
So they abandon it, and part of the reason they abandon it is because nobody's tracking it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, okay.
So we recommend that every organization should have a dashboard, okay,
Hmm.
for your chancellor or whoever is responsible, dean, or you're the head of innovation and linkages, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
should have a dashboard. We can share a simple example where you track it, and you track it year on year, what's happening, which one is coming up for approvals, and so on. So, okay.
Thank you, sir.
So that
Thank
you don't miss the case, and also you're able to report it in your NRF forms.
you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think with that, we are probably done. Mugdha, can we? I think there are no other questions. Please do give your feedback on the form that Mugdha has put, and we'll be happy to take any questions separately over email if any of you have them. Okay. So I think with that, we can close. So over to you, Mugdha. Thank you very much.
We'll also be sharing the slides post this session. And let me take this opportunity to announce the next session in this awareness talk series, which will come up on 24th of September. And the topic is only protecting and licensing music. So very different topic. So please do join us. All those who have registered, this is a one-time registration, and you'll just get a reminder for joining the session at the appropriate time. So you need not register again for each and every session. Thank you so much, and feel free to share the details about this talk series with other colleagues who may find it of use. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Premnath.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.